Well, it was on the 25th day of June 2009 that Nigeria's late president Umaru Musa Yar'Adua declared amnesty for ex-agitators in the Niger Delta region. He declared, quote, "I hereby grant amnesty and unconditional pardon to all those who directly and indirectly were associated with commissioning offenses related to the militant struggle of the Niger Delta." End of quote. With those words, the late President Yar'Adua declared amnesty for all those who had been agitating in the Niger Delta region. Hello and welcome. I'm Angela Ajitumobi, and I thank you for joining me on the program today. Ever since amnesty was declared, many people have expressed reservations about what exactly it was meant to achieve. Beyond an endless process, a farce of some sorts that they say will lead nowhere. Now, the special advisor to President Jonathan on Niger Delta affairs, Kingsley Kuku, in whose office the Presidential Amnesty Program is domiciled, is also the chairman of the Presidential Amnesty Program. He never made any pretenses about the fact that the Amnesty Program had a terminal date.
The amnesty program as it is today must end in 2015. These programs will go a long way in consolidating the peace we are all enjoying in this country. And this is what we are talking about. The amnesty program itself cannot continue as Nigeria continues. It must have a duration. It must have a terminal point. And where it terminates, the alternative to consolidate the peace we are enjoying today must be made available in platform by the governors and those who are governing the various states and the chairmen of the local government areas, who must look at what we are doing and buy into it.
The amnesty program was not designed to be interminable. It was designed to be a 5-year program beginning from 2010. 5 years will end in 2015. It was very timely for the chairman of the Presidential Amnesty Program to have exposed this. Now every person knows that the program will come to an end, has a time limit. And even for the ex-agitators themselves, they'll begin to know that those who had not keyed into the program will know that you can't continue to have an endless program. Because every day we will see young men, the youths in Niger Delta agitating to be part of the program.
Now, that date was 2015, and no one knows if perhaps President Jonathan had won the presidential elections in March of 2015, if the Presidential Amnesty Program would have continued as one of the interventionist programs started by Yar'Adua and continued by President Jonathan. Now, according to those who run the amnesty program, they say there has always been a misconception about what the program was meant to achieve and what exactly it has managed to achieve. So what exactly is the Presidential Amnesty Program all about? The head of reintegration of the Presidential Amnesty Program, Lawrence Pepple.
Following the proclamation of the Presidential Amnesty Program on the 25th of June 2009, a structured disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration program commenced. The ex-agitators signing on to what in other climes would have been called a comprehensive peace agreement, but in this case, a forgiveness package called amnesty. People wonder what is really amnesty. Amnesty is supposed to be derived from the word amnesia, forgetfulness, a medical condition. What it means is that in other climes or anywhere, it is defined as a process where governments forgive people who took up weapon against it with or without trial. In this case, there were no trial and the people were granted pardon. And this pardon was predicated on the fact that the ex-agitators agreed to sign on to a peace agreement to denounce and renounce violence in all its ramifications, and agree to a process whereby government agreed to a structured disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration program. The DDRO seems to be a complex thing. Let me break it down a little bit. Disarmament, the first component, is the removal of weapons from the hands of ex-agitators. By UN definition, UN Department for Peacekeeping Operations, it connotes that when you remove the weapon, then you put up a comprehensive process whereby further arms may not enter into that territory. Second phase is demobilization. Demobilization means the ex-agitators that had agreed to sign on to the peace process is removed from their barracks, the creeks, their camps, and brought to a place where they should pass through a non-violence training, needs assessment is done on them, choice of course of what they want to do, wellness test is carried out, checking out to see if they are strong, and processes to identify the ones that have sicknesses, or maybe some had bullets embedded in their system, carry out some petty surgeries, and prepare them for the next phase, which is called reintegration. From the records you have generated, including biometric capturing, which will aid security agencies in the future, you have generated documents where the man is now known, his address is known, his next of kin is known, health status is known, what he wants to do is known, why he wants to do it, vis-a-vis needs assessment of the area with comprehensive analysis about what will be the economic benefits if that man is given that kind of skill or education. Then you move to the next phase. It's a cyclic process. One D and the next D then move to R, which is reintegration. The reintegration component is basically either to send the people who had agreed to go to school. Some of them must have dropped out from primary education. So you compress primary education into some kind of accelerated learning process to qualify them to earn maybe basic school leaving certificate so that they can qualify, write JAM as the case may be, as we've been doing, and prepare them to enter into formal universities. Some had agreed that they would acquire skills, prepare them to meet with the entry requirement required of that institution they want to be trained in, and now put them into those institutions. Then monitor and evaluate their growth with a view to seeing them come out a more galvanized with qualification, because ultimately reintegration includes the fact that when you finish equipping the man with the tools he needs, you will ensure that you guide him through a process whereby he becomes contributor to the growth and development of the region or the area where he lives. That is making the man economically viable. Or some of them must have opted even, they have all the necessary to, they even want to go into politics, prepare them and make them civil citizens who will not put themselves through the civil processes. And all this DDRO connotes all that.
Now, there has always been opposition to this amnesty program. Even among the ex-agitators, most of them didn't believe in the use of the word amnesty, connoting forgiveness for something that one has done wrong, especially when these militants never believed that what they were doing, taking up arms against the state, was wrong.
I never believed in the amnesty program. I am not part of it. I believe that if there is any peace in the Niger Delta today, it is because Goodluck Jonathan is president. Because there are thousands and thousands of our brothers and sisters who have done the amnesty program. But having said that, the amnesty program, whether we accept it or not, in whatever name we give to it, had achieved a lot for the people of the Niger Delta, because people have been trained. We can't deny this. Even if we fault the models of the granting of the amnesty, But the managers of the amnesty have been very effective in managing it to the advantage of those who decided to accept the amnesty program. Amnesty means a pardon, and you can only pardon somebody who had committed a crime. I did not commit a crime, so I do not see any reason why I should accept a pardon. As far as I'm concerned, it's very insulting to criminalize those who are fighting for. Yes, there were criminal elements in the Niger Delta, but to give a blanket is very wrong for Yaradua to come if he sees somebody on the street and say, the way I'm seeing your face, you must be a criminal, so I will give you a pardon. No. It's unacceptable for us. I believe that the amnesty program, it has achieved the purpose for which it has been set up by training the people, giving them skill, and etc.
I believe that right now, what the amnesty program should be doing is to reach out to other intervention agencies that have critical roles to play. And such agencies as Niger Delta Development Commission, Niger Delta Ministry, because you see, at this level, there is need for synergy and a lot of interagency collaboration to ensure that their efforts are not duplicated and to also ensure that we consolidate on the achievement that they have already made in this program. I have to be honest with you, a lot has been done to get us to this stage, and we don't pray to get back to where we are coming. And I think every well-meaning Nigerian should feel concerned that this level of achievement is consolidated and sustained.
What then are the various components of the Presidential Amnesty Program?
The Office of the Special Advisor that is charged with both handling issues that relates to the Niger Delta, headed by the Honorable Luku presently, and he's also the chairman of the Presidential Implementation Committee. It has the responsibility of working with other critical stakeholders to ensure that this process is running seamlessly, effortlessly, without hitches. So it has various departments that is currently helping it to do this job, particularly at the reintegration phase. It has the department responsible for education for people who are choosing formal education. It has the vocational unit for people who are choosing to do vocation. It has the post-training empowerment unit, which the fact that when you finish acquiring skill, they prepare you, process you, help you to write proper CVs, and prepare you for workplace behaviors so that you can find work ultimately, and particularly for our women.
A major criticism of the Presidential Amnesty Program by many Nigerians is the fact that it seems to go on forever, especially as most people in the Niger Delta region still insist that the peace we have there is a fragile peace.
Definitely in the Niger Delta, we have suffered enough, we've gone through enough crises, we've been called all sorts of names in the Niger Delta, we didn't hold our governors accountable, we did this, we did that. Please let us have what we have today in the Niger Delta. Anything that will agitate the fragile peace, because there is a fragile peace in the Niger Delta.
During the time we accepted amnesty, it was made known, it is on record, that we are laying down our arms and will keep to our home bargain. But if the federal government doesn't keep to their bargain, the younger ones that will come up will be worse than what they experience. To me, I will call it a game, because the federal government have not done anything. We talk about infrastructural development. It's part of the amnesty. The amnesty is not just only training. Training is just one part of it. We talk about human capacity development, empowerment, and these things are not going on because they look quite all right. How to address the beginning and the end of the agitation, the struggle. Everything was stated there. But today they are forgetting so soon what happened. It's not by the military intervention or any attack. Look, let me tell you something. Gone are those days where the Niger Delta people will be scared of gun. The worst case scenario, if they don't address these issues and go to the root cause of this struggle, it will re-blow, and to re-arrest it will be a difficult game.
When does the amnesty process end for different individuals? The 65,000 naira stipend given to each ex-agitator every month, when does that end? Does it continue even after training forever and ever and ever.
Even now, any of my trainees that finishes training, gets a job, or the mass number of people we are training that have not been gainfully employed, you cannot stop 65. When the late president packaged the Presidential Amnesty Program as a way of ensuring peace and sustaining security situation in the Niger Delta, it was comprehensive. Disarm the people, demobilize them, reintegrate those who are disarmed. The infrastructural development arm of it, which was supposed to be the one to anchor development, infrastructural development in the Niger Delta, like the East-West Road, Coastal Road, all those plans that we talked about at that time was supposed to be anchored through the instrumentality of the Federal Ministry of Niger Delta. Environmental remediation and cleanup was supposed to be handled by Federal Ministry of Environment. Now, we were also talking about community stakeholding. The oil communities must be recognized as being owners and stakeholders of their oil and gas. And in doing that, what goes back to them, a percentage must go back to them. So this is supposed to be anchored by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum. The Niger Delta Ministry is not as funded a ministry to carry those activities out. Everybody knows that the Niger Delta agitation and struggle was not about DDR. The agitation was not about getting the arms, training people in welding and fabrication, in university education. Good as these things can be, the agitation of my father, my grandfather, the agitation that our brother, the hero we have, Isaac Adakaboro, the agitation that Ken Saro-Wiwa died for, the agitation that Asari Dokubo went to prison for, the agitation that the likes of Tompolo abandoned their comfort and went to the creeks for 5 years was not about 65,000 per month, was not about rehabilitating a number of people that agreed to call themselves ex-agitators. It's not about that. It was about development of the people, development of the environment, cleanup of that environment for the people to come back to their normal lives, possibly in some sense, in some areas. It's about good roads, it's about good hospitals, it's about environmental remediation, it's about new town development like the late president was talking about. The moment we create funds to carry those projects out, the people we are training will have things they are coming back to do. But if we train 30,000 people, there are no construction sites for those we are training as construction artisans to come back to work is very, very dangerous. I'm as worried as you and every Nigerian. It is not within my purview. It's not within my mandate to create those jobs. There is peace in the region, not perfect, can never be perfect. Security situation has been stabilized, and all this has happened for development to take place.
Join me after the break.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela. Angela, that is a very great question.
That's a great question.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
This is an interesting question you put.
60 Minutes with Angela. Gain answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Jetumobi. Today, the Amnesty Program comprises an education unit, a vocational skills unit, and a post-training empowering unit. Of course, it also focuses on women and children especially.
The special advisor is not concentrating only on the aviation. He has a great personal passion for the aviation industry. Trust me, he has that same passion for the education desk because he feels that the Niger Delta is quite deprived in terms of education. If you talk about the multinational companies that have their stations in the Niger Delta, and when they want to do recruitment, you hardly find qualified people to fit in different positions. Most times you can see our people fitting into the lower units of those companies. Honorable Kingsley says no. We must get our people in every department, in every aspect of those companies. We will educate our people. This is their money. We are giving it to them. Under the Amnesty Program, they have the reintegration department, which is divided mainly into the vocational training unit and the educational training unit. The education desk is where we have the special scholarship scheme to train or educate mainly Niger Delta youth from impacted communities, basically mainly communities that were affected by the militancy era. This is more like a compensation to those communities. We have 639 people in the UK currently studying, 215 people in the US studying, 200 people in Malaysia studying, 71 people in South Africa. We're talking about engineering, medicine, different fields, because we don't restrict them. We're talking about very good schools here. For instance, the Northeastern University, where you saw 160 students going into for their summer program, this tuition is very expensive. You can imagine the kind of schools we're talking about. We have students in King's College, UK, where tuition is high up there.
Currently, we have turned out in nearly all the skill sets you can ever imagine in humanity. Agriculture will have 716 persons. In automobile mechanic, we have produced 601. In welding and fabrication, we have the highest number, 4,807. And this is peculiar because most of the people desire to acquire skills that will enable them fit into their environment. And the oil and gas firm and the expansion that is going on even with PIB and all that, Train 7 of LLNG and brass LLNG, most of them wish to participate in that construction level. So we have very high number of 4,807 in the welding and fabrication. For the entrepreneurship, we have about over 2,074. Entrepreneurship is one area where you will find some people, they started in this agitation thing and they're over 40 now. If you ask them to travel very far to acquire any kind of knowledge, they will tell you that they would rather just come to Lagos or Port Harcourt, acquire basic bookkeeping, acquire knowledge about how to run small businesses and go back to their communities and begin to affect positively.
What we are trying to do in the amnesty program is what ordinarily the Nigerian system is being accused of. We are trying to be proactive and working against that kind of situation. What we normally find is for people to just get trained and they are left to fend for themselves. But we have decided to go, despite the fact that this is not part of our mandate, we have decided to go the whole hog to train these persons, either empower them as entrepreneurs or get them jobs in the fields that they have trained. The office is only trying to be proactive because of the history of how the program, the amnesty program itself came about. We do not want a situation whereby some of these persons that have been trained will go back, like you have expressed your fears, will go back to the former way of life. So what do we do? After kitting them, equipping them with skills, we also go ahead to say, let us look for places that these persons can fit in. Yes. Now, what is the reason? What is the purpose for that? It is because the DD Arrow program that we run, the arrow in that code means reintegration. We are trying to reintegrate them back into society.
We have over 700 women covered in this program, both people who participated as porters, as wives, as girlfriends, or even combatants during the struggle. So these women, naturally, if you call a woman to say, come, I'm taking you for a skills acquisition training or education, the first question some of them will ask you, where will my child be? So Honorable Kinsibuku initiated a process whereby we'll have the unique, I want to call it the very unique women in DDRO in Africa. I went to Liberia, I went to Sierra Leone. I've never seen this type where women were given opportunities to bring their babies to training institutions, provide for crèche and play group for the children, provide for self-catering for the mothers so that they can look after their children while still acquiring skill. Research was done in Liberia and it was discovered that women go under radar during the DDR program. Under radar means that because of the perceived stigmatization, because of the fact that they are complex and managing their issues are usually very complex, they just go under the radar. But with the galvanized support, supporting women to come out, they came out in their number. You are entitled to bring 2 children under age 2 that you can bring to the center where crèche facility, play group, and primary education for that year is provided free of charge for the mother. For even breastfeeding mother, there is breastfeeding rooms provided. So it encouraged women to come out. And we have recorded very serious success stories. Training that takes men 6 months, for the women it is 1 year. The reason is that there is the ups and downs of mother, there is the process, even the period for antenatal and postnatal. People come there, you don't know that they are 2 weeks pregnant. So before they will start the program, they will need to be visiting their postnatal and antenatal training. So it was a very remarkable thing, and we recorded a huge success. For every 10 people who have set up entrepreneurship skill after the entrepreneurship skill and given them empowerment to set up small businesses, we recorded more than 80% success in the women program than the men.
For the beneficiaries, the question was, were there any coercions, settlements or inducements? Did they have to sign, lobby or bribe anyone to benefit from the scholarships?
Honestly speaking, I didn't pay a dime, and if it was man or man, I wouldn't have made it to the final round. I'm thinking people that were even had no financial stability than my family were even sent home because they couldn't pass their exams. Some rich kids were sent home because they couldn't pass their exams. The more they screen, the more they give you tests and exams. If you pass, you continue. If you don't pass, you get dropped immediately.
Well, we're recruited through community selection.
Right.
In my community in Delta. So they called us. They actually went through our manual grades.
Right.
School, secondary school.
Okay.
And so like we're kind of good in our grades. Like we have these distinctions. So they called me out and then we went through some screening exercises and I happened to pass it. You have to have above like 60 for them to actually put it on your grade.
60 was the pass mark.
60 was the pass mark. My field of study, where I went there to study computer engineering, I want to come here, impact it on Nigeria, use it to grow Nigeria also, like, I'm an industry, or general industry, create computers, repair computers, and sports.
And all your needs are taken care of?
Yes.
Are they paying your accommodation?
Yes, yes.
Are they giving you an allowance?
Yes,
you are? Yes. And who will be paying your transport? Did your parents have to buy your tickets? To the States?
It's the federal government that's taking care of everything.
So all you had to do was pass the test?
Just pass the test.
And be one of the 160.
Exactly.
What does 3 stripes qualify to be called?
It signifies that you are a commercial pilot. I've done 285 hours now. I have done 102 hours of solo flight. The simulator flight, we don't count it as a PIC hour, as solo hours. It's among the 2 hours. Actually, a PPL license first, a private pilot license first, then a commercial pilot license. Now I'm currently with Lufthansa for my license construction, yes sir. And I'm busy with the grad school now, and thereafter will be the type ready.
What state are you from?
My birth, I'm from Benin State, Idoma by tribe, but I grew up with the Niger people in Port Harcourt.
Okay, the River State.
The River State. I stood as one of the beneficiaries of the program, and I'm telling Nigerians that it's not a regional program because I'm a life testimony for the program, and I'm not from the region. Okay. For me, it's a national program.
You know, the financial constraints didn't give me the opportunity at first. So I did other stuff until God opened the door for me through this medium to become this. And I thank God for our president, Goodluck Jonathan, and the advisor to the president on Niger Delta Amnesty, Honorable Kingsley Koko. Basically, you just need to understand English or just have a tertiary education. But I'm a graduate, but then, you know, if you want to achieve or want to get to where you need to be, then other stuff they have to suffer for you to be there. But it doesn't mean that you won't catch up with them. But yes, it needs the maximum concentration that you can get.
For the engineering program, it's supposed to be 2 phases to it.
Right.
Yeah, the first phase is for 24 months, which is for only ground schooling. You go for ground schooling, you write exams, and after the exam, after that 24 months, you're supposed to go for an on-job training process, which will now grant you your license. I'm a fully certified aircraft maintenance.
Fully certified, that's what it's called. Yes. Are you going to go for any subsequent training?
Yeah, after the on-job training, to go further is to get a type rating for a particular aircraft or a group of aircraft. Yes, an engineer can fly a plane.
But the pilot can be an engineer?
He can if he undergoes the training.
Right.
But for an engineer, he gets the basic training of both a pilot and that of an engineer, so he can equally fly a plane. In secondary school, I did computer science. I went to a technical school. So, but it doesn't really require specific courses, because even someone who did arts can actually go for this training and come out successful.
Did you have to pay for the training?
No, it was a government-sponsored program. After the on-job training, then I issued my license.
Okay.
Yeah, the type rating is optional.
Where are you from?
I'm from Benue State. Originally from Benue State, and I was born and brought up in Delta State. Yes, based on that, I qualified for the program.
The program that I undertook under the amnesty program lasted for 16 months in Amman, Jordan. Aviation, especially pilot, of which I did it, will I say, under stress, but after some time I go back to my thinking table and I realize that nothing good comes easy. Yeah, so with that focus and determination, I was able to sit down, relax, and then pick up the courage to continue the struggle.
Sometimes it would seem as if a lot of people lose sight of the real reasons behind the agitation leading up to the grant of amnesty in 2009. Timi Alaibe is the founding chairman of the Presidential Amnesty Program and former managing director of one of the interventionist agencies in the Niger Delta region, the Niger Delta Development Commission.
We believe that all that is required to focus and give a world view of the Niger Delta issues and challenge should be encouraged and placed at the level where it will be an undeniable fact that there is need to finally resolve the Niger Delta challenge. There are economic challenges, there are environmental challenges, there are socio-political challenges, and there are critical infrastructural challenges.
We'll take another break now. Join me again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask, you get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela. Every week on this station, 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. Now, on a Saturday, March 28, 2015, Nigerians trooped to the polls to elect a new president. Muhammadu Buhari, a former general, emerged as the president of Nigeria starting from May 29, 2015. He was the candidate of the main opposition party, the All Progressives Congress, APC. That victory of Muhammadu Buhari brought to the fore the matter of the Presidential Amnesty Program yet again. Don't forget that the Presidential Amnesty Program was the baby of the late President Musa Yar'Adua, and it was no surprise that his then Vice President, Goodluck Jonathan, maintained and continued that program even after his death, and when Jonathan became both substantive president and president again in 2011. Understandably, a lot of people in the Niger Delta region, especially those who are benefiting from the program, are worried now about the status of the program going forward once Muhammadu Buhari assumes the seat of the president on May 29, 2015. Is there a case, therefore, for the Presidential Amnesty Program to be continued by the incoming administration of Muhammadu Buhari, perhaps as a way of assuaging the feelings of the Niger Delta people especially the South-South geopolitical zone of Nigeria, who to all intents and purposes didn't vote for Muhammadu Buhari as president?
Well, I think so because there is need for peace in that region. It might not be comfortable to do it, but I think that we need to engage them, and it may not be at the level at which Jonathan has done, where he was giving them mega contracts to take care of our waterways and take care of our pipelines and things like that. No, we don't need them for that. What we need them to do is to put them on the way to integration to society. I think that is the way it should be done. And that is what we need from them.
It depends on what that program was initially. Was it just a token to placate the Niger Delta? Or was it a well-conceived program to bring change to the Niger Delta? And 4 years after that program, there must be an assessment, there must be an appraisal. What impact has it had on the Niger Delta? If it has not had any impact on the Niger Delta itself, then it needs to be readdressed. But I will always be for anything that will bring development to any part of the country. It should be sustained, it should be continued. It may be modified, but then it should not just be cancelled because the son of the Niger Delta is not in power again.
The crisis that engulfed the Niger Delta region of Nigeria around 2007, 2008, up to 2009, or sometimes thereabout, was a lot of challenge to this nation. The youth were demanding for facilities that they felt should come to that region by reason of the exploration and exploitation of the oil mineral from their region. The then president, late Omar Musa Yar'Adua, rather than going to crush them, felt that there should be dialogue, and therefore he now said he was granting them amnesty. That amnesty was what culminated into the forming the amnesty group, or the amnesty, the body, or a parastatal for that purpose, to be able to address the issue. I think essentially the amnesty was meant to rehabilitate those of them who had been engaged in this struggle for the emancipation of their land, and two, to also assist a good number of them to become professionals in their right. Maybe those of them who did not have any form of professional work before, maybe as artisans or as plumbers, or persons who needed to go to school. This program afforded them the opportunity. I've had the privilege of watching on television some documentaries about some of them becoming pilots, some engineers and all that. I think that's a lot. Therefore, I am of the view that aside from some little restructuring that may take place, the program should still subsist. The program should still be, so that the people will not feel that the president, because it's from the northern extraction, is going to take his pound of flesh on them. And that will also lay to rest the skepticism of some of them from the Niger Delta region, that as soon as General Muhammadu Buhari takes over, that they are going to be such change in this regard. I am not canvassing that the amnesty should be forever, because those granted amnesty have already accepted it. But I believe that we should have a period of time, a cessation period also should also exist. And from what I heard from Mr. Kingsley Kuku, who is the chairman of the Amnesty organization in Nigeria, or the body, said that the timeline is supposed to be 2015. But another government has come on board. There could be an extension, so that those of them who are in school, who want to finish their course, by now should be winding up. If we stop it abruptly, those of them who are in school or who are in training overseas may not be able to complete their program. And therefore, I feel that that timeline should be on. Some of them are also receiving some token. I'm told it's about 65,000 naira as monthly stipends. By now, people should be thinking of winding it up. It cannot be like that forever. So those of them who have learned trade, those of them who have gone to school, should now begin to think on how to be involved in the society. And I will encourage Mr. President to look at what the Niger Delta Development Commission can do in this respect. More funds can be given to the commission. Definitely the commission needs restructuring. It should be restructured, and adequate funding should be given to it, so that it can tackle not only the ecological but also the social needs of the area, aside from what the various state governments will be doing. The amnesty program is a good one, and I think also those of them who are struggling or who are fighting in the northeast particularly those of them who say they are insurgents, they should take a cue from this. They should be able to say, we are embracing peace. President Jonathan has already talked to them about this amnesty. They are the ones that have refused it. I think our President-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari, should extend this hand of fellowship to them now to say, please come on board and accept it, so that they too can be trained. They are Nigerians, and they are persons, probably they have been indoctrinated. Some of them have been taught the other way around, so they can be brought back home, and we can have a situation in which the country will be at peace. That is not to say that everyone should be taking up arms, that when you take up arms, then you'll be granted amnesty. No, that should not be. So it should be that it's a measure for a period of time, and it should also be that at the end of the day, it won't be a thing that will last forever or become inelastic, as it were. As it is now, for political exigency, I think that should remain while the process of winding it up is put in place. Particularly those of them who are schooling, let them finish their education so that the amnesty program can be wound up. I think that if we go this way, there will be peace at this end, and Nigeria will move forward.
The Ministry of Niger Delta and the Presidential Amnesty Program were brought on board by the late President Yaradua. He brought it on board not because he was in love with the Niger Delta people. He brought it on board because he said he understood what we were fighting for, and the price of oil had gone down to 700,000 barrels a day. Nigeria was going to go broke. And you also saw what they unleashed on places like Baramatu and Ayokromo and Okrika while they were looking for Ateke, and Tombia and Kalabari area while they were looking for Asare and Farah. And then you go back and you look at Odi, which was Obasanjo's time. Obasanjo brought NDDC. All of these intervention agencies have been brought to the Niger Delta at the time when Niger Delta people were agitating and holding Nigeria by the neck. The Niger Delta Development Commission is for Niger Delta. I don't see why there should be a northerner even on the board. I don't see what they're doing there. The Ministry of Niger Delta should actually be in the Niger Delta. It has no business being in Abuja. Then you might as well say that the states, all the state governors should go and live in Abuja. So you should say that these things should go to where they are meant to be. Even the amnesty program, for any reason that anybody may think that the issue of NDDC and Ministry of Niger Delta and the amnesty program should either all be merged together or be starved of funds or to be totally scrapped, I think that will send a very, very wrong message. That we have, marginalization and injustice is continuing, that the status quo remains, that people will decide our fate, that people will decide what will happen to us and how it will happen to us. And I think that we have gone too far, too far in the struggle for justice and equity in this country for us to be taken. I do not think that the retired General Buhari, the incoming president, will really listen to such advices, and also the issue to do with the renewal for oil licenses, yes, and even the issuance of fresh licenses.
The issue of amnesty, my view is that we should try to modernize them and reform the process, because it came up in the first instance as a failure of leadership and governance. Ordinarily, there is no way you'll be giving money to restive youths if you had jobs for them, if there was enough schools for them, if their parents could afford the fees for them to attend schools. Secondly, we should equally try to bring in some other areas. Or if you look at what is happening in the Boko Haram areas of late, you'll discover that there is need for us to extend the amnesty to those sections of the country, probably by modernizing it, by creating jobs for them, decent jobs for them, not necessarily by paying them money. But if we go into this issue of paying stipend to them, we'll continue to pay, and certain sections of youth will continue to protest and will pay them. I don't think that that one is enduring. I think we should provide decent jobs for the unemployed youth in the country. That's a way of ameliorating it. However, this commencement was when Yaradua embarked on it. He looked at it that there was no need for him to fight the people there. If you have this restiveness, there are two approaches. You may quell it, or you may use amnesty. And if you check the governments before, Obasanjo used force to curtail it. Yaradua used amnesty. So I think there must be a solution, lasting solution to this issue of amnesty. It shouldn't be there forever.
The presidential amnesty program did not come just like that. An event led to it. the people of the Niger Delta felt shortchanged, that they produce the nation's wealth. Petroleum, the mainstay of the Nigerian economy, comes from their soil, yet they lack all the good things of life. No good roads, no pipe-borne water, environmental degradation, no employment, no social infrastructure, and there is poverty, abject poverty, visible. So this was what led these people to agitate, and in fact caught the attention of the whole world, not just Nigerians. So the government was not out of love, it wasn't altruism that they granted the amnesty, because Nigerian government was getting broke. Oil production fell drastically from the 2-point-something million barrels per day to less than 1 million. So the cash crunch was being felt everywhere, up to state governments, local governments. So it is more or less a way, let's save ourselves from extinction. That's government. And they say, okay, if placating you will lead to stoppage of this fight, let's placate you. And the amnesty program came in handy. So it's like buying peace. Federal government bought peace for the sake of economic survival. But again, no government will tell you it is that. They will say it's out of altruism, that, well, we are all Nigerians, we cannot see you suffer, and all that and all that. Those are the platitudes that went with it. The amnesty as at present is not sustainable and it's not inclusive. Firstly, you brought out these people, initially it was about 30,000. You train them by debriefing them. Good enough, and it's the right process to go. And thereafter, those who wanted to go to school, we enrolled in schools. Those for degrees, higher educations, we are sent to institutions of higher learning across the world. Those needing trade, we are sent to trade. I mean, all over the world, Israel, America, Canada, and so on and so forth, especially in oil-related fields, even up to aviation. That is beautiful. And you were being paid 65,000 as stipends. That cannot be sustained, and there's no justice in it. One, the cost is enormous. Two, there must be an inbuilt exit date. Otherwise, if you don't build an exit date, it will become like a government of its own. And criminality or agitation will now become a freelance thing. Whenever you want government attention, you do certain things, and government will say, oh, okay, come on board. In a country where the minimum wage is 18,000, for those who work Monday to Friday, you are paying somebody 65,000 without lifting a pin. What did he do? Just because he had carried gun earlier on to perform some sort of criminality. All right, it is good we forgive those criminal activities which we engaged in, because it was not criminality for its own sake, but rather to drive home a message. So that message has been driven home. But what about the situations that led to that agitation? Infrastructure, unemployment, roads, poverty, so many of them, environmental degradation. Have they been addressed? It is not just those people that carried arms. The fathers, the mothers, the children, they are still in the environment, suffering and undergoing this. It's only the smart young ones that carried arms that were being attended to. That's number one. I said it's exclusive because it's exclusive to these people. Rather, it should have been inclusive, because if my mate carried arms to destroy pipelines, to kidnap expatriates or other foreign workers, to engage in other kinds of antisocial activities, and you now say, oh boy, come on board, come and have this, come and have this. And I'm there in that same age bracket, needing the same thing you are now giving to them, and I'm excluded from the list. Is there justice? You see, what is sustainable anywhere and by human nature? If you want peace, and which the government wants, and which we want, all of us, there must be justice. Justice comes before peace, sustainable peace. If you buy peace, it's only temporary. After some time, the euphoria wears off, and the reality faces you.
I really share the concern of people who feel that the people of the Niger Delta tend to be taking too much, particularly for this intervention program. It is supposed to be a terminal program. It is not supposed to be forever. It is expected to last the first phase, the very 5 years, the second phase, the third phase. There are other teeming youths, millions of youths in the Niger Delta, looking for opportunities for empowerment, for engagement and employment. So when they see that a few select of 30,000 is treated specially, it calls for animosity, it calls for agitation. But we should not forget where we were before this was initiated. And the wisdom of the man, he had seen that military option was not getting the desired result. So it is also with what can happen in the northeast of Nigeria. Because I did a research and I discovered that when any man has a job, he may not necessarily be available for violence. I did it with scarcity of petroleum products in Port Harcourt. During scarcity of petroleum products, crime rate drops. How? All the people who have the capacity for criminal activity will be busy during the day using jerry cans to search for petrol, to sell it in the black market, make some few money, will be busy going to boutique, dress properly, go out to nightclub. And the nature of crime you see is people fighting in beer parlor and all that, but burglary drops. That shows that if you create opportunity for people to be engaged constructively, they may not necessarily be available for violence. So it means that across the board you can apply it. Create opportunity for everybody. In fact, some people agree to be criminalized, called ex-militant, to be enrolled in this program. Who wouldn't be if the program is provided for people to go to school, go to UK, become pilots, just because you call the man militant? Please call me any name and let me benefit from it. We are urging that other departments of government, other state governments, local government should take the fallout from when oil dropped to 700,000 to now that it's 2.6 million. Take the proceeds from this and put it into youth, women empowerment program. It will reduce the agitation for more and more people asking to be joined in the amnesty program.
Well, that's it for this week. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. Thank you for watching.